Welcome back, analysts, for the second matchup for the divisional round of the 2026 NFL playoffs and the NFL mascot matchup. Of course, we're going to be deciding the winner of these teams, of these matches, based on their matchup. And so today we'll be talking about the San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. In terms of timing, again, just wanted to show you that it's 12:05 right now on Saturday. So I know this video is going to come out well after this match ends and these maybe even well after Sunday, but that I am doing this and making my predictions before these matches occur. I will not be going into full depth on all the other matches. And so for the NFC divisional round, I'm also going to talk about my prediction between the Los Angeles Rams and the Chicago Bears. If you want my predictions to the ones for the AFC teams, watch the last video. So when it comes to the Los Angeles Rams, Chicago Bears, we have Rampage for the Rams, and then we have Staley DeBear for the Bears. Now, this one is pretty easy for me. I mean, Staley, truly the only reason him and his team have gotten this far is because the Green Bay Packers do not have a mascot. And you can't win if you don't have a mascot. What we saw actually is in the wild card, both teams, the Chargers and the Green Bay that didn't have mascots, lost. And that's not a surprise to me. Knew that was going to happen. And so Staley didn't have real competition. When we really look at Rampage, the accolades that we have, the high caliber. I mentioned that I would be incredibly surprised if Rampage is not nominated or really selected to be in the Mascot Hall of Fame within the next, honestly, 2 years. Honestly, I'd say even if this upcoming year, but within the next 2 years, then that would just be a farce. And Staley just doesn't have the amount of accolades to really match up. Yes, he's energetic and he has his own uniqueness aspects, but Rampage is just gonna overpower him. So that one's easy for me. I'm picking Rampage and the Los Angeles Rams to take their matchup. Now going into our round today, so I will be again focusing on the Seattle Seahawks and their mascot. I talked about the 49ers and their mascot Sourdough Sam in another video, so watch that if you want more information about him. So I'm going to focus on Blitz and then make my decision from there. And that's right, his name is Blitz. And so we will be talking a bit about this mascot, starting with our initial thoughts are right off the bat. And so in terms of cuteness, I mean, even in this moment, I still haven't given Blitz a rating. I am just so back and forth because I think it is a great looking mascot, but it's not, I don't think it's meant to be cute. If you know the history of the mascot, which we'll go into a little bit, it is definitely much better looking than what it used to be. Honestly, I'd probably have to give its old mascot a 0. It was just hideous. But this one, almost like Swoop, I feel like is not really meant to be cute. It's meant to lean into more of the ferocity. So in that regard, maybe I'll give it the same or close to that of Swoop of around a 6 out of 10. But really, this is a tough one because I don't think they're leaning in this cuteness category. Going into the clarity, as it stands, I really want to and have written down a 10 out of 10 for this mascot because if you know the logo for the Seahawks, Blitz looks exactly like that logo. Exactly. I mean, if you know anything about football, even vaguely, if you look at this mascot, you can guess that it is for the Seahawks. And like our guest analyst, my now 6-year-old niece, as she reported, Iris, as she reported that seeing it, she knows that this is the Seahawks mascot. That was easy for her. So I want to give him a 10 out of 10. And I think that's fair and just to do so because I still don't know if a Seahawk is a real thing. I think it's actually made up. So in that sense, it's not really possible to look at it without context of the Seahawks team and just guess what it is because I don't think a Seahawk is a real thing. And if it is, I probably look pretty silly, but let's face it, you watching this, you probably don't know either. And then going into the creativity, I'm going to have to give Blitz a 9 out of 10. And I'll explain. So Blitz, the term Blitz, comes from the German word Blitzkrieg, which you all may have heard of before, and this means lightning war, referring to fast, intense attacks. And in nature, this is also used to represent a sudden gathering of fish or predators to feed. And so why I love this so much is because the Seahawks logo, the Seahawks bird, this mascot, Blitz himself, is meant to be an intense predator. So using a term that means he is going to overpower, he's going to rush you, he's going to overwhelm you, and turning that into an actual name. And it also is, as we know, something that happens in football. For the defense, when they blitz, when they rush at that player, that's what they term it. And so it has the dual effect of not only being directly related to football, but also related to Blitz as a bird, as a Seahawk. And so I really like this. I didn't give it as like the perfect 10 because, for instance, with Swoop, what we see is this is something that directly a bird does. So a bird will swoop down and get its prey versus the Blitz, like it says, a gathering of fish or predators to feed. It's not really directly related to the bird, but still, amazing job. Loved this use of the name. Now, going on in history, we have a good bit here to cover. So, for history, Blitz came on in 1998, and the first significant redesign of the mascot occurred in 2004 when Blitz received a subtle update to make its facial features a little less intimidating and more approachable for younger fans. Now, this isn't out of the ordinary. We've seen this with a bunch of mascots where they made changes so the younger fans are not terrified of seeing these things roaming around in the stadiums. Now, this change softened the original, more aggressive expression from the 1998 induction. And so that was the first one. But then a more substantial overhaul took place in 2014. And this was introduced in a very dramatic fashion during a halftime show for week 3 at a Seahawks game on September 21st. Now, I'll talk a little bit about that in a second because that involves now another kind of mascot. So there is one new one that was introduced a little bit later in 2024 that we will talk more about in a minute. And then there was one that came on a little bit earlier, which is a live hawk, another live animal we see that swoops in to start the game. So it kicks off with this hawk. And so when you're thinking of the initial beginnings and when people kind of rush in because they say, I want to see the intro, they're not talking about that for Blitz, which I don't like this fact. I don't like when the mascots share the limelight. And so I don't necessarily like this. I think that pulls away from Blitz and people are more excited to see kind of this intro there than they might be for Blitz the mascot. So going back to 2014, let's discuss this and then we'll fast forward to 2024 with the next mascot. So in 2014, I think I mentioned during a halftime show that this happened. So this was against the Denver Broncos, mascot that we just talked about. Blitz introduced his official sidekick, who was named Boom, through a very theatrical time machine journey skit where Blitz traveled to the future and then returned with his new companion. Now, I love this. This is so extra. This is so excessive. I love the theatricality and to introduce during a halftime show and to be like, look, we got a new one. I mean, I would have lost my mind if I was there for that game. Incredible. And so Boom is depicted as a more adolescent, energetic counterpart to Blitz, embodying kind of the explosive enthusiasm of the Seahawks fan base, known as the 12th man. You all might have heard this before if you watch college football. The Texas A&M, they have similar like the 12th man kind of tradition, basically saying, as we know, there can only be 11 football players on the field at one time, but a team could be so kind of, I don't know, almost overpowering that it seems like they have a 12th man on the field is kind of the idea. And Boom was really introduced to target more younger viewers. So as we can see, he's got the kind of backwards hat going on, looks more youthful, is supposed to be like a teen bird. And so it's for those younger viewers, and we'll talk a little bit about this in the community events, but they'll also bring him out for different events that target some more of the younger viewers too. So now fast forwarding, again, I love that point. Fast forwarding to 2024, the Seahawks introduced Bam Seahawk, which is supposed to represent actually the team's more global fan base. So this is supposed to be an international mascot. Bam features a white jersey and a number 12 and a changeable flag patch to honor different countries, which I think that's pretty cool. And this is the second alternate mascot after Boom. So Bam joins Blitz and Boom in engaging fans worldwide. So it only comes out really during the worldwide components. And I actually really like this about the Seahawks. This is really unique. We could even put this in the uniqueness category in terms of having specific mascots for specific portions of your fans. I think it's really neat to have one that can represent a lot of the international fans, one the younger fans, but Blitz is still a part of it. It's not that when they go international that Blitz doesn't go, or when they're there for the younger fans that Blitz isn't there. They're a part of it too, but that way all the different facets of your fan base can identify themselves in a mascot. I like this because not everybody can identify themselves in Blitz. Maybe the younger folks can't really. And maybe for the people that are international, it's nice to be able to see their patch, on Bam Seahawk and to feel that representation. So this is a great thing by the Seahawks. And then continuing into that uniqueness, I wanted to point out the fact in terms of the actual coach of the team, the former coach of the team, recognizing the mascot and the greatness that Blitz brings. So, the head coach, Pete Carroll, as we know, he was their head coach for a while, named Blitz a Seahawks team captain. Listen to me, people. A Seahawks team captain. Okay? That's right. A team captain in 2020. And normally the team captains, I mean, they're a huge part of the team. They'll go there for the coin tosses, etc. And this is a role that Blitz has held since then and continues to fulfill. This is incredible. We have not seen this before. We might not see this again. And so this is huge. I mean, the coach of the team to recognize that and to maybe even take team captain from a different player to give it to the mascot. Wow. Kudos to you, Blitz. And now going into accolades, so Blitz has had multiple Pro Bowls, and most recently in 2025, video circulated of Blitz throwing passes to Jackson Smith and Jigba, the Seahawks, kind of their leading wide receiver. I love this. You all know I love when the mascot's really integrated and incorporated with the team, when the players respect him. We saw how much the coach respects him. So for him to be throwing passes, warming up their leading wide receiver, like, this is bonkers to me. This is incredible. So great job on that, Blitz. And then we also see that he's been to 3 Super Bowls in 2006, 2014, I believe 2015, and won one of those Super Bowls. I think it was the 2014 one, and would have won the 2015 if Russell Wilson had just handed off the ball to Marshawn Lynch to run in the end zone. I mean, that's a play for any of us who are not Patriots fans, because at this time, nobody wanted the Patriots to win. That is something that'll just Roman Empire play in my head for the rest of my life. And then we see that in 2023 that he was actually named Mascot of the Year, so very recently, and we know that's a huge honor. The mascots vote on that, so the mascots voting for him to be Mascot of the Year. But not only that, this is our second of the year and final mascot to be inducted into the NFL Mascot Hall of Fame in 2025. So he was inducted along Toro, if you all remember. So he is now one of just 5 current mascots in this coveted position, the Hall of Fame. And I think I saw something like 28 mascots were nominated. So amongst those, for him and Toro to be picked, this is huge. This is them saying that you are making a impact in your community, that what you're doing is huge for your fan base, and that you are just overall a great mascot. So congratulations to Blitz on this huge, 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 huge honor. And moving into social media presence, what I saw is that he has a top 10 following on social media generally out of all mascots, which that is huge. If I remember correctly, I don't believe he does have his own social media, or maybe he has like some of the ones that I might not have, maybe not have anymore, maybe Twitter or TikTok. But I believe on Instagram, I saw some information from, it seemed like a kind of community run Instagram page. I could be incorrect. If I am, I'll put that up here and explain to you. But I think for the most part, I didn't quite see that. And so since I'm not quite remembering in this moment, I'm not going to spew my vitriol again for how I hate how mascots don't really think about this element, the social media presence, especially because I could just be wrong. Now, going into the community engagement. So he makes over 400 appearances annually, and we'll talk about what some of those are. But keep this in mind that with all the community engagements that he does, he has become a 2-time NFL winner of the Mascot Anchor in the Community Awards, winning in 2022 and 2023, back to back. I don't think that's ever happened. I mean, as we've discussed, this is the equivalent of the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So those players definitely haven't ever won that back to back. And so to win back to back as a mascot is huge. We talked a bit about this when we discussed Rampage. I think Toro also won as well, where this award is given to folks where they see that you are, like I said, Walter Payton Man of the Year, that you are doing great in your community and that only one can win it. So this is huge, huge, huge for Blitz. Congratulations on that honor. Some of the things that he does, to go into a little more specifics, they have a Kicks for Kids, which is a charitable program started by the one, the only Blitz. The mascot started this program. All donations raised directly benefit families across the communities, the 12 communities that are near and far. And so since 2020, Blitz himself has donated over 12,000 pairs of shoes, not just across Washington, but across the world. This is so incredible what Blitz has been doing and continues to do. And also he's had notable engagements, including performances in holiday parades like a lot of the other mascots. And there's the annual not like a lot of the other mascots though. They have an annual 4th of July event on San Juan Island, accompanied by the Blue Thunder drum line, the Seahawks drum line, and disaster relief support. And they actually collaborated as well in 2025. We see that they collaborated with the Los Angeles Rams, with Rampage, their mascot, to donate over $10,000 in Nike shoes to children impacted by the Eaton fires through his Kicks for Kids initiative. So this is just incredible. We saw this as well with Steely McBeam, how he partnered with Chomps, just a hated divisional rival. And we see this again now with the Seahawks and with Blitz partnering with Rampage, putting aside what is not as important, which is the game's football itself, and focusing on what is important, the community. Blitz has been an integral part of the Seahawks Ready Set Goals reading program for children. In addition to all their home games, he appears at, like I said, hundreds community and charity events throughout the year. He helps with Make-A-Wish fulfillments, also goes to even children's birthdays and bar mitzvahs. So I love this. He's not a discriminator of cultures, so that is great for Blitz. And then in terms of the miscellaneous category, so he has some here too. And you might remember I discussed this with the Eagles, but that the Seahawks, and therefore Blitz the bird, the Seahawks are both my mom and my niece Iris, who's been our guest picker, their favorite team in the NFL. Huge. And so going into the experts, our other experts from the USA Today, we'll put up Blitz's ranking here. So we see that, it's kind of run of the mill in a sense, right? So Blitz, I think, has done a lot of impressive work. And with this induction in the Hall of Fame too, I said this similar with Toro. I think this would raise his stock in future. I mean, this bird is just really integrated well in his team. So thinking of the matchup with him today with Sourdough Sam, this one was actually a tough one for me. At first, I was thinking, well, it's got to be Blitz. I mean, we heard a lot of great things, but that's what I thought for the Eagles. With all intents and purposes, the Eagles and Swoop had much better accolades. I mean, even more recently winning the Super Bowl. I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer. And so this worries me because it's in a similar vein here as Blitz. And as we know too, these are both birds. And so I'm kind of worried we don't know yet because there's only one competitor, but what if this gold miner is like kryptonite to these birds? And so that does concern me. But as I look at this, I do think that some of the more recent accolades of Blitz are very impressive. He's been recognized even more recently, and I guess I said this too for Swoop, that he just seems to be getting better, but one of Swoop's more recent accolades was the fact that he won a Super Bowl. And when we think about that, a lot of people could say and really attribute that to his team playing the game more so than Swoop, but Blitz being inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame in 2025, that's all him. His team has nothing to do with that. That is because of the hard work and dedication that Blitz is putting in, was named Mascot of the Year in 2023. And so when we look at the accolades of this mascot and really thinking about it well, when we put it up against Swoop, Blitz's accolades are just a bit better. Now, I will say I don't feel necessarily confident about this one as much, but what I know is that Blitz, the energy that he brings to the stadium, I mean, he helps that stadium be one of the loudest in the NFL, and so I do think that that will be an advantage of theirs. I believe they play at home. If they don't, this is awkward, but I believe that'll be an advantage of theirs being home. So I'm gonna put with a little apprehension, I'm gonna name Blitz and the Seattle Seahawks of the winner of this matchup today. So we'll see how that one shakes out, and in general, we'll see how these picks shake out for the wild card round. Was 4-6 in terms of my determination for the mascots, which hey, pretty good. And so we'll see how this comes out this time around. So thank you all for joining me for the divisional round, and I will likely see you in the round for the champions in the AFC and the NFC. We'll definitely see you for the Super Bowl, of course.